Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Queen Anne's County Board of Education meeting for September 6, 2023. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, please have a seat.
So pursuant to the general provisions, Article 3-305 and 3-104, the Board of Education of Queen Anne's County met in a closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice, to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation, to conduct collective bargaining negotiations, or consider matters that relate to the negotiations.
All right, thank you. And do we have a motion to amend tonight's agenda?
Mr. President, we move to amend the agenda to include a non-public tuition payment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, approval of the minutes,
Move to-
August 16th.
Yeah, move to approve the closed session minutes from August 16.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Move to approve the open session minutes from August 16.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the fun stuff. Awards, Dr. Salas.
Yes. The best part of the meeting.
Very good.
Yeah, careful.
Well, good evening. I'd like to kick off some of our awards and recognitions for this evening. The first award, this award is given to a staff member or volunteer who keeps on going. It is sponsored by Bayview Financial, Mr. Chip Brittingham and Mr. Wayne Humphreys, if they'll please come forward. And our nominator this evening, Mr. Kintop, if you'll please come forward. So our September Energizer Bunny is Christine Frederick. She'll please come forward. She's not here yet.
That's what I was trying to say.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll circle back around to her. We'll move on to number 2, which is also Kevin. So if we could just wait and have you guys wait, we'll come back up. Hopefully she'll be here any second. Our second award is our Queen Anne's County Public Schools Spirit Award. This award is given to an individual who embodies the spirit of Queen Anne's County Public Schools. September's Spirit Award is Jennifer Dreyer. Yay! Jen joined our summer programming this year as the site coordinator for the high school credit recovery program. As a teacher and a reading specialist at the middle school level, this opportunity to work with our high school program was a step out of her comfort zone. However, this is where she truly showed her spirit and dedication. Jen jumped right in, helped to coordinate over 200 students in an online recovery program. She coordinated laptops, kept attendance and credit completion numbers, handled day-to-day operations and communications with families, all in an effort to help Queen Anne's County Public School students recover credits and move closer to graduation. It is because of employees like Jen that when we refer to our students, we mean every child in every grade in every school. So thank you for your efforts with summer school.
Mr. Smith, you slide over just a little bit. Perfect. Thank you.
The next award is our Shining Star Award, and I'd like to call up Mrs. Jolene Smith as well. And it's actually a nomination on behalf of Mrs. Smith, Mr. Kintop, and the summer school team as a whole. And this award is presented to an individual in our school system who shines. And this award for September goes to Caitlin Jackson. Caitlin provides instruction to a large group of students during our extended year program for this summer. She designed engaging and rich lessons for our students needing the most support and structure. Caitlin showed a high level of knowledge for teaching students with complex needs, recognizing those needs, and with a combination of consistency and ongoing reinforcement, and all while meticulously keeping data. Caitlin was supported by a team of school assistants that were provided with guidance and support to maximize their impact on students as well. Ms. Jackson truly shines as a star this summer.
Mr. Smith, just slide over a little bit more. Thank you.
I think we'll wait a
Okay.
little bit and just see, because I have one more recognition, so if she doesn't come in by then. Okay. And we have one more recognition. I'd like to call up our supervisor, Mr. Michael Page, please, Supervisor of Science Instruction. So Queen Anne's County Public Schools has been recognized as the 2023 U.S. Department of Education Green Ribbon School for innovative efforts to reduce environmental impacts and costs, promote better health, and ensure effective sustainability and environmental education. Queen Anne's County Public School was nominated for this award by the Maryland State Department of Education. Nationwide, in 2023, there were only 26 schools, 11 districts, and 4 post-secondary institutions that received this honor. It is a big deal. This is a really, really big deal. As a matter of fact, I think we have the canvas that they gave us. I'm not sure, I think Mr. Pinder may have that. He can bring it out if he does. So I just wanted to personally say to the board to give an extra special thank you to not only Mr. Page for his leadership, but for the entire staff in Queen Anne's County Public School for working hard to build a foundation for a sustainable future. I also want to ask Mr. Pinder to come up because in particular, his hard work, yeah, that was really good work, right? But really between the two, Mr. Michael Page working with staff members in the schools as it relates to the environmental aspect of things, creating those outdoor classrooms and things like that, but also Mr. Pinder and his work with our energy savings. So you put the two together, and that's why we were successful with this award. So recently, Mr. Page, he traveled to Washington, D.C., to the United States Department of Education to participate in a ceremony that recognized Queen Anne's County Public Schools, and he received this amazing plaque. That's heavy. That's heavy. So he received this on behalf of the Board of Education, and we will be having these both in the main foyer. As soon as you walk in, the first thing you'll see when you enter Queen Anne's County Public Schools Central Office will be this recognition to our public schools. And so, gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for your leadership in that area. And I'm very proud of that. I mean, and Queen Anne's County has been the lead literally across the state of Maryland for years, with all of our schools being green schools. This year at every elementary school, we have a new outdoor classroom opportunity. They look sharp, they're amazing. And it's not just for science. Those pavilions are used for all classes, can go out and take a nice breather outside and enjoy learning in the outside environment. So thank you and kudos to you all. And I think without Kristen here, I'd still like to recognize her and at least read about her, and then maybe we can. So as the Energizer Bunny for September, Chrissy wore, it's Chrissy Frederick, as I had said before. Chrissy wore multiple hats for us this summer, and we could not be more grateful. In the morning, she led our Art and Nature Gears Camp program at Graysonville Elementary School. She helped students create unique and diverse works of art, braiding different facets of nature into each. And then when the camp students went home, Chrissy changed her hat and was the site coordinator for their after-school PFY program at Graysonville Elementary School. In this role, she ensured that students' lunch ran smoothly and then coordinated and rotated series of programs in the afternoon. Her willingness to take on both roles and her desire to see kids enjoying learning makes her an excellent example of an Energizer Bunny. So kudos to her and thank you for her efforts.
I just kept going back. That's your first time.
Really falling on each other. No hand though. No.
Plug. I'm going to bed. All right, board involvement. The first thing I'm going to do this evening is introduce our new board members. Ms. Nay Fens Sweary Forty, and of Queen Anne's High School, and Cody Sandifer of Kent Island High School. So they're going to be joining us at all the meetings for this year. They obviously represent their respective high schools. We look forward to having them and hearing what's going on in the high schools directly from high school students. And board members, would anybody like to be recognized?
I just want
For
to say
board
welcome back,
involvement.
everybody.
County Fair was fun last month.
It was
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, welcome back, and I loved meeting all the new teachers, the brand new teachers. That was pretty cool. I love that we have 60 new teachers, lots of wealth of depth of teaching experience on a lot of them. So I went to 7 schools on the back to school day, first day. Oh my goodness, so much fun. The sidewalk chalk, the balloons, the signs, the enthusiasm, the hats. It was a lot of fun to see. So welcome back. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic year.
Yeah, I also attended Centerville Middle School Open House. A lot of spirit there. It's fun to see the kids back. I mean, it's we're back, back pre-COVID, back to COVID, not COVID any longer. I mean, kids are really out there in the air. Also, I had an opportunity, was asked to meet with Dr. Copperfield, Chesapeake College. 25 years ago, one of the boards looked into magnet schools. And there was some discussion there, but it led on to other things about CTE partnerships. And I was very impressed with what we had to offer and what we're doing compared to other counties and things like that. We have a good program, and I think Chesapeake College is a great asset to enhance our CTE programs. But the one thing I'd like to challenge this board doing is in months, we'll be moving into a new board office. This building is historical. It's not going to be torn down. Parts can be. I think we should really look into possibly using this as a CTE program to increase our CTE programs, free up some space in our high schools. It would give us a great opportunity, and I just think this board in the future, as we move forward, should look into that as a possibility. I know there's a lot of things that have to be looked at, but my personal opinion, it could be a very good fit.
All right, thank you. So I attended the new teacher breakfast a couple weeks ago. As Ms. Bennett mentioned, we have, 68 teachers?
About 60.
Yeah, about that. Brand new to the school system. A handful are brand new to teaching, and one of them is actually one of our former graduates from 2012, so that's always nice news to hear. And I'd also like to mention that we're 98% capacity in the time of a teacher shortage nationwide. We're up at 99% for teachers, 98% as the whole staff. So I think that really reflects on a couple of people. Number one, the superintendent, Mr. Knoll and his team, and everybody else that's been involved in recruiting effort for the past couple of years, actually, to get to this point. It also says a lot about the community and the school system itself as well. It's a great community. It's an excellent school system to work in, and I'm glad to welcome all those teachers. I also attended the kickoff meeting, which was several hundred people, and from all invited from all areas of the school system. And the amount of energy and enthusiasm in that auditorium, they say that education is not just pouring information and facts and figures into a bucket. It's actually starting a fire, desire to have a lifelong learning. And I think just based on the enthusiasm and the excitement that I saw from the teachers and staff that day, we're going to be smoking it this year. So looking forward to that. I introduced the new school representatives. Usually at this point, if you guys want to put out any information, this would be your time. You don't have to tonight, but if you've got something prepared or something you'd like to say and introduce yourselves, the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Nathan, but I go by Nay, and I'm a senior at Queen Anne's County High School. And this month we have a lot going on. On September 7th and 8th, we have our Underclassmen Picture Day. September 14th, we are starting a new club. It's called Living Naturally High. And it's basically just a philosophy that you can live your life without substances and still have fun, so you don't have to drink or smoke or anything to still have a good time. And September 18th and 19th, we have our senior portraits in the auditorium. And also on the 19th, the League of Women Voters will have a table set up outside the cafeteria to help students register to vote. And the week of September 25th is our homecoming and our homecoming spirit week. Thursday the 28th at 5:30 p.m. we have our Powder Puff football game. Friday the 29th we have our homecoming dance at 6 p.m. Saturday the 30th at 10 a.m. we have our homecoming parade, and it's followed by the football game against North Carolina High School with a 12 p.m. kickoff. And September 29th, our interim reports will be sent home, which marks the halfway point of the first marking period, which is crazy because we just started school. So, yeah, that's what we have going on this month at Queen Anne's County High School.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cody Sandifer, and I'm the new student member of the board for Canal High School. We have had a very busy summer and the first week at Canal High School. This summer, our school got a brand new Buccaneer blue roof. We also cleaned up our ponds on campus, which makes everything look much nicer and also opens up new opportunities for classes and clubs and things like that. The last big change over the summer is the addition of the new portables. So our new portables finally allow all freshmen to be at KI full-time, and we've closed down the annex we had at the middle school. Since school started, our football team won this past Saturday against Parkside. And during this first week, we have also reviewed our spectator expectations, which kind of gives guidelines of how our spectators should act at school events. And we went over our school safety procedures and had our first fire drill. Tonight, there's a family workshop taking place, and this family workshop it has a bunch of food trucks, and the purpose of it is to help parents learn how to help their students succeed, like in school and in life. This week, we are very excited for our senior sunrise event, which gets all the seniors together to watch the sunrise, and we all get to hang out and eat breakfast before school and kind of just introduce each other. And I look forward to meeting and working with you all throughout the year. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good job, thank you.
Dr. Salins.
It was just a great kickoff. I was able to get to all the schools, half of them the first day, half the second day, and then even had to just go back because our littles came in on the third day, and I just couldn't resist. But it was smooth sailing, and thank you to all of the staff who made that happen, because that doesn't just happen. It happens with a lot of hard work and a lot of planning. So a great kickoff, and we're out for the races. We're doing it. So it's great. Thank you.
Excellent, of course. Okay, moving on to citizen participation, public comment. Okay,
Got it.
Ms. Bent, yeah.
We ask all speakers to keep in mind the following guidelines. Speakers should sign the roster, include their name, telephone number, and address. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes in length. Comments longer than 3 minutes should be submitted in writing. Statements to the board should relate to a matter of general policy over which this board has authority. Comments about the actions or statements of individual staff members are not appropriate for public comments and should be referred to the superintendent of schools or the board president. If you have specific questions, the board will make sure an appropriate staff member responds to your question. The board respects your desire and right to convey your message freely, but asks, as a courtesy to this board and our citizens, that you show respect for all. First on the list, Cecilia Mitchell.
Good evening.
I'm Cecilia Mitchell. I'm the president of QACEA, and I'm here to share an email that we sent to Dr. Salins, President Schiffinelli, my goodness, and Dr. Knoll. It's with regard to action item 807, the Time to Care Act. In review of your agenda for tonight's meeting, we noted that there is a proposal to join the MABE-MACO Time to Care Act Collaborative. Please be mindful of the board's statutory obligation to negotiate all leave provisions, a mandatory subject of bargaining, with the designated exclusive bargaining representatives. Inasmuch this proposed collaborative may not usurp the board's statutory obligations under the collective. So I lost my place. Exclusive bargaining representative, I'm not good, under the collective bargaining law. Finally, we also believe that this action is premature, as the Time to Care Act regulations are not expected until January 2024, which will provide the necessary guidance to employers in creating an exempt plan. The association remains ready to engage in negotiations on this very topic. Thank you for your consideration, and it's signed by Christy Anderson, the General Counsel for MSEA, and me as the President of QACEA. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Chris Blanton.
Hello, Chris Blanton, Church Hill. I've been to and spoken at numerous Board of Education meetings over the last few years. During COVID, parents wanted their kids back in school, while the Board of Education members and superintendent continued to do everything but listen to the parents, voters, and taxpayers. Since there's 4 new board members and a new superintendent. 5th board member ran unopposed, therefore basically getting elected by default. You would think that this statement alone would be enough for the newly elected members and superintendent to do an about-face from the previous board's decisions and mismanagement and listen to your constituents, and make decisions based off the platforms that you all ran on, the children, unless that was a lie and you only did it to get elected. I have spoken during public comment on school safety and how our schools need to ensure that more money from your already robust budget be focused on infrastructure for safety in the schools. These statements have been met with resistance, as it appears that this board has moved back into business as usual, while continuing to make children last. During the open session, a citizen asked a question that related to a matter of school policy. The board refused to answer, stating that they did not answer questions. When I questioned this statement based off the rules set forth by the board, I was told that this is just a comment section and that it was not meant for questions, even though when you state the rules prior to each public comment sections, which stated questions or statements to the board should relate to a matter of general policy over which the board has authority. Someone has since changed that wording, effectively striking the word questions. I'm curious to why the board doesn't want to answer questions on the record. That being said, I have asked numerous questions during public comment, and I have also emailed the entire board questions to include the superintendent, Ms. Salins. Guess how many responses I have received? 1. Thank you, Ms. Capes. So you don't answer questions during public comment. You don't answer questions when they're emailed to you. When do you answer questions? When someone calls in, so it's off the record? During the open session, a group of people spoke on the problem with books within Queen Anne's County Public Schools. The board was quick in that matter to stop the speaker and say that you should hold a work session on that matter. Funny story, I don't see you having a work session on school safety or this ridiculous, expensive new Board of Education building. Just out of curiosity, I posted the Board of Education's plans to spend $20 million on a new board building while there are schools without running water, roofs that need to be replaced, and security infrastructure that was needed. No one said they were in favor of it. All questioned why. How does the new Ivory Tower benefit the kids in Queen Anne's County? The board is back to business as usual, where you could clearly care less about the kids and your educators. Just because you're doing a dog and pony show every once in a while doesn't mean you care. You need to stop being self-serving and be community serving. Stop being part of the problem, be part of the solution. I can assure you focusing $20 million on a new Board of Education building is only self-serving and part of the problem. And before you say this was already in the works and approved before you took over, you all have the power to change this and refocus on what actually matters, the children and the future. I congratulate you on you getting your new 60 people, your new 60 teachers. I guess they can all teach in modules because that's all we're gonna have since we don't have room. Someone also said that this building can be repurposed.
Thank you.
If it can be repurposed for you guys, why can't it be repurposed, or for kids, why can't it be repurposed for you guys?
All right, thanks a lot.
So am I gonna get responses to my questions, or?
All right, is there anybody next on the list?
No, that was the last.
All right. Okay, moving on. 6.01 Summer Project Update. Mr. Pender.
Okay.
Carrie, is it,
It's, yep. The top, summer projects.
got it, sorry.
There you go.
How do you do this? Good evening, President Schiffinelli, Dr. Salins, board members, executive team, student members. For the record, my name is Sid Pender, Chief Operating Officer for Queen Anne's County Public Schools, and with me I have, thank you.
Darryl Barraclough, Facility Planner.
Good evening.
So tonight we're here before you to present a lot of work that was done this summer and also a lot of work that went on during the school year to get to these projects. Most of the projects are complete. Some are not. We're still finishing up. We ran into, some supply chain issues and some items like that. So we just kind of wanted to go through. We had some pictures that we wanted to show. Obviously we don't have pictures for every single project that was accomplished. But at Bayside Elementary School, we have the brand-new metal seam roof that was installed. We started that during the school year and finished it probably middle of July. That roof was from 1981, so I would say that we got our money's worth from that roof on that project. We also, to keep on going with our food service department, we installed new condensers, evaporator units for the walk-in freezers and refrigerator. The phone system there was from 1981 also, and we upgraded that. By the way, a lot of these projects we were able to fund through grants. So the aging school program, we were able to install the new phone system, and concrete sidewalks, we were able to use that through our MABE grant. We try to use local contractors as much as we can. At Centerville Middle School, if you ride by there, we're not quite finished it, but we have went through and painted all of the stucco on the outside, all the metal door frames, window frames, and then when you go inside, we've done the same thing, painting that. We've also painted the block walls and all A, B, and C pod in the classrooms. One of our initiatives last year was to upgrade our short throw projectors and also our interactive boards, to put those on a schedule like painting our buildings, so like every 8 years of going through that cycle. We were able to install 31 Epson BrightLink projectors. Another great project that we've realized, and some of these are good projects in partnership with the county commissioners, because the cell phone booster project, before, if you tried to use a cell phone or have any kind of communication inside of the school system, or inside of Centerville Middle School, you were very, very limited. That's something that we learned during some of our school safety drills. So partnering with the county commissioners, we were able to get 4 schools done this summer, and Centerville Middle School was one of those schools. Churchill Elementary School, we currently have a new fire alarm being installed there. That work is going on during the nighttime and on weekends when students aren't present. We did get approved by the county commissioners to install a pre-K playground, which we're very excited about. If you're facing school, it'll be to the right side of it. And then to the left side of it, we're also taking that playground and moving it up towards where the blacktop is. There's some runoff and drainage issues there. So we're hoping to start on the playground sometime this fall. Kennard Elementary School, I will let Mr. Barraclough take the lead on this one.
Okay, at Kennard, similar to the other project that Mr. Pender mentioned, we did install a walk-in freezer and walk-in refrigerator to that facility, along with new serving lines, ice machine, and milk cooler. Also, in addition to the work in the cafeteria area, we are in the progress of completing our single point entry system, which basically is a secure vestibule. It will route all visitors after being screened at the exterior door. It will basically funnel all access through a side corridor and directly into the main office where they could be further screened, sign in, and meet with staff there before basically having full access to the school. The secondary doors that were there are still there. What we're going to do is install panic hardware, exit devices on those doors that will be locked throughout the school day, so that if anybody does come in and tries to come in through the normal access through those doors would be locked throughout the day. In addition to the office work, or in addition to the vestibule, we've kind of reconfigured the main office, the workroom that was to the back, and the nurses area. We've pretty much almost doubled the size of the existing nurse space there in hopes of bringing in Chop Tank for the community health services there. One of the pictures that you see on the screen right now is the green reception counter. It kind of looks out of place right now because it really is out of place right now. Within probably this weekend coming up, it will be relaminated with a maple front and a maroon countertop to kind of tie in with the rest of the school. It'll blend with what we have in the media center for that school. You can also see in one of the other pictures, the picture to the far right is the new workroom area and the relocated mailboxes. In addition to the work in the main office, we also painted all of the corridors, all of the classrooms. We painted the main office space, media center, gymnasium, and cafeteria. We also picked up a few storage rooms. Did I miss anything?
No, sounds great.
Okay. Also, in addition to the painting, we took down the old chalkboards that were on the main instructional wall. We installed a large marker board and a 65-inch clear touch. We installed 31 of those we're in the process of installing 31. We're about 50% of the way through that installation right now. And we've got a little bit of concrete work that was done outside as well. That brings us up to the end of.
And I did want to give one shout out to the maintenance department. We did not receive the whiteboards until that Thursday before school started, and within 2 days, they had 62 of them in the school ready to go. So really give them a plug for helping us out. At Ken Island Elementary School, we're trying to do away with carpet as much as possible. We really do not have a lot in the schools. A lot of the high traffic areas, like to the picture up there, is the main office, and we went with a planking system that we do not have to wax. It's more user-friendly and maintenance-free. Ken Island Elementary, the whole entire school was painted this past summer, including the hallways, classrooms, storage areas, along with the gymnasium. Along with that,
the main front wing of the school that basically is from the main admin area and towards, what is that, Main Street?
Yes.
Main Street there at the front. That section of roof was torn off completely and redone over this summer with a new roofing system. That project started a little bit before, right around Easter break. It started briefly over that period of time. They pulled off the project because students came back in and remobilized in June after school let out for summer break. Pretty much did a great job over the summer break, installed that, got it all completed before kids were back, and that project is now 100% complete.
At Ken Island High School, as one of our student board members mentioned, we were able to install 3 new portables. The those installations, I mean, there was a lot of work involved in that, including, running the fire alarm systems, the telephone systems, the electric, installing the sidewalks. But as you look at them, they're very nice inside. One of the pictures doesn't quite show you, but there's a nice storage area in that also. That move from Mattapique ninth grade annex to the high school was a major move this summer. It took a lot of time, but I thought it went very well, moving the entire school out there. Hopefully the students are, enjoying that, being at one location.
Okay, the Kent Island High School roof project, this was a very big endeavor. The project is still ongoing. It's percentage-wise, it's about 90 to 95% complete. The project was originally planned to be a 2-summer project. The first summer was going to be, all of the flat areas were going to be done over the first summer, and then the contractor was going to demobilize, come back the following summer, which would be next summer, and complete the rest of the job, which would be all of the sloped areas. Through careful planning on their part and a very cooperative principal down there, we were able to basically finish both summers worth of work beginning in June, and they'll be wrapping up about the end of this month. The work that they're doing now, they're basically working in the evenings after 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon until it gets dark out, and they're doing a really great job out there with that scope. And the benefit of doing that over the one summer is we do have a little bit of an inconvenience with traffic and that sort of thing through September, but the nice part about it is that we won't have any issues with summer activities related to a roof next summer. Also at Kent Island High School, similar to the Centerville Middle School project, we installed a cell phone booster system at that school. We did classroom modifications for the 9th grade. And as the student member mentioned, the stormwater management ponds, a lot of the vegetation around the perimeter of that has been cleared. That will allow greater access for any type of school activities with outdoor classroom and those sorts of events. That project is still underway. The remaining work that you'll see on that project, the biggest change that you'll see probably is going to visually happen this weekend. They're going to start taking down the chain link fence at the pond that's furthest from the stadium. So it's the pond that's as you're facing the front school, to be the pond that's on the left-hand side. That pond, they'll take down the chain link fence, and they're going to be putting up a three-rail split rail system similar to what was at the Mattapique complex, where you have a 3-rail system and like a cattle type fencing, galvanized fencing on the interior of that. And that'll basically occur at both of the ponds. Once they finish the first one, they'll move on to the second one. The storm drains, we had a lot of storm drain failures on that project, and it was a really good coincidence that we were working on the roof at the same time that we were doing the stormwater drain repairs, because the two kind of worked in concert with one another to solve some issues that we had inside the school with roof leaders that were backing up and causing some flooding when we had major rain events. So we were able to kind of cure a couple of different problems that have been plaguing that school for some time. In conjunction with the underground stormwater drainage lines that were installed, I'm not sure if anybody was familiar with it or had noticed it before. We had patrons would buy the little brick pavers that you would get a student name, whether it's a memorial or a patron type of purchase. They were kind of just haphazardly kind of placed along the sides of the gymnasium entrance sidewalk. Well, we came up with a design to, instead of pouring concrete back across to where we had to channel across for some underground storm lines. We took the opportunity to basically take those pavers, integrate them into the sidewalk, so that now as you're entering the school from the parking lot going in towards the gymnasium entrance, you've got much more. It's a very nice visual presentation there for bringing that kind of to the forefront and people recognizing it and seeing it.
At Queen Anne's County High School, we were able to mill and overlay the entire parking lot on all four sides of the school. We were also able to do a lot of sidewalk work in conjunction with making it ADA compliant. The one major benefit of this project, we were actually able to install 13 additional parking spots for students, which kind of puts us at a maximum spot there. So we were able to pull that off. And again, you know, with the cooperation of the principal and helping us move different events around, we were able to keep that project going because, as you can tell, a lot of the concrete work is at the main entrances. So we appreciate Mr. Schreckengast working with us. We were also able to put in a new track this past summer, so it is equivalent to the same track that is at Kent Island High School. We still had to stay with the 6 lanes. We couldn't get 8 lanes in there without moving the bleachers and the stadium and all that. But we're very fortunate because we're able to change it from yardage to metrics. So that will enable us to have track events at that school more frequently. Looking through there, you can see a single point entry. It's not quite finished. We're still working on it. We have some access controls to put in. But as you know, previously you would walk right into the lobby of Queen Anne's County High School and you could go anywhere you want. Now you'll be funneled into the front office. We're actually even installing a window to the side. You can slide to just, if somebody leaves their lunchbox, you just pass that through. They don't even have to come into the building. Again, cell phone boosters were installed, concrete sidewalks replaced. If you get on the main hallway, we replaced all the lighting with LED. They have a new career center there that we're also painted and did some work on. And then a couple of the bathroom floors have a port in place. We ripped those out and redid those with a new material that is more durable and will last longer. Stevensville Middle School, we are currently installing that booster system in the evening. That will be the 4th school completed. And then again, next year we'll do 4 more. Sellersville Elementary School, the new fire alarm is being installed there. And then this October, we will be replacing the chiller, which is very much in need of replacement. We've gotten our money out of that project also. Queen Anne's County Transportation Department, the warehouse where the maintenance is also at. One of the things that we kept hearing year after year was that there wasn't enough bathrooms out there. We were able to add 2 additional bathrooms to give them 3 bathrooms. The maintenance department did most of this work. Along with, we were able to add some training rooms to the office out to the warehouse for the transportation department. We installed a new pump grinder. The A-phone was installed, and then we were also able to do, through Delmarva rebate program, exterior LED lighting, so now that you can really see out there of what is occurring. I did want to say, thank you to Daryl, Jim O'Donnell and his crew, Mr. David Carter and all the custodians, but also thank you to the county commissioners and Todd Mon, the county administrator, for helping us with a lot of these projects. Like I said, a lot of them were also grant funded, and so we try to get the money where we can and make things happen. Any questions?
No, I'm just impressed with how much you guys did. Did you even take a day off?
I'll be honest with you, no.
But they look great. I mean, we've been privileged, grateful enough to be able to go and see some of this new stuff that's been done, and it looks fantastic. It was much needed.
It takes a team. I mean, it really does. With the principal, and then there's always something going on at a high school, and summer school's going on. So there's a lot of coordination before we even get started. But it was a long, lengthy summer, but it was well worth it.
I think you guys did a great job. And like one thing I see on here, 3 new portals at Kent Island. What's said too, I think we now have a rise out of portables, so our students are out of 8 portables. So to me, that's a negative of 5 portables we're no longer using for students.
Right.
And the other thing is, I think sometimes a misconception, and Dr. Shallens, maybe you can answer it, is our schools aren't over capacity as far as students. It's programs and curriculum that cause us to have space issues sometimes.
That's correct.
So it's not,
Ken Island is about 2% over this year.
Okay.
But it was last year too. It's just because that is their home base. So just because we moved the kids didn't make it over capacity. They've been over capacity basically since the day that they were open.
But then some Ken Island comes up to Queen Anne's for seat at a lot of.
Many come up.
So, I mean,
Many
that,
come up. So that's why there's portables there at Queen Anne's County High School, not because Queen Anne's County High School is over enrolled. It's because we have programming there that services 2 schools at one location.
And there were quite a few safety features and security issues taken care of, and Mr. Sabori will, go over those when we have our open forum for that. So I did not include this in there, but there were quite a few done.
I think I got a copy of your projects for this summer were 38, and I'm just looking down here, 8 or more were security related, as far as, upgrading phones, vestibules and stuff like that, plus a couple roofs. I mean, I don't understand how you got Ken Island done. That's pretty, I give kudos to both you and the contractors, because to do that whole roof in a summer, whew, that's
I go by every Saturday, and they're working
They are.
every Saturday.
That's been an amazing project.
All right, anybody else, comments, questions?
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. 6.02, gender gap data discussion. Dr. Kibler, Dr. Sprinkle.
Good evening, President Schiffinelli, Dr. Salins, board members, and executive team members. For the record, I am Dr. Marcia Sprinkle.
I'm Dr. Matthew Kibler.
All right, thank you so much. So just to give a little bit of background information, the board had requested that we take a closer look at our gender gap. And so as a result of that, the Regional Educational Laboratory of Mid-Atlantic was sought out. They're also known as Realm Mid-Atlantic. This is an organization that supports the learning of students in the district, also due to gender gaps. They do a lot of research. They have experts on the team, educational experts. As a matter of fact, when I spent my tenure at the Maryland State Department of Education, we had many projects that were ongoing with the REL of Mid-Atlantic. So I'm aware of their work. They are experts at what they do. They do a lot of coaching. They provide a lot of resources. They give a lot of recommendations. And so that's what we actually secured here in Queen Anne's County, which is great. Just to move on from there, they did find and they confirmed that there was a gender gap, which is not unique to Queen Anne's County Public Schools. It's a global issue, okay? It's a global concern, and it's also a state concern. But one of the things that we need to keep in mind in Queen Anne's County Public Schools is that because we are one of the top performing school districts, and I'd venture to say we should be very proud of that. We're number 5 or lower. That gap tends to look larger because we're already performing up here. However, if we were not performing up here, and we were performing lower, that gap would decrease and be smaller. So that is what they've said to us specifically.
Sure, I just wanted to point out the 2 pieces of data that are displayed in the gender gap memo. First, there's a couple graphs just on our MCAP data, English and math scores. They're just pulling out, I believe it was our most recent scores from last year. They're only looking at Queen Anne's County, and I'd like to say we wouldn't be necessarily satisfied with where our students are in all those categories. Some of them, especially with math, are, you know, lead us to want more. But again, what Dr. Sprankle said, keep that in perspective. My office has given a presentation to you last spring on us compared to the entire state, where we are consistently in the top 5 of counties in our performance. That is not displayed in those graphs, so just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. And then you also see graphs in here that that are only showing our gender gap relative to the other Eastern Shore counties and the state of Maryland as a whole. And while there are areas where our gap might be a little bit larger than other districts, please keep in mind that that is not showing that's not showing our overall scores, where if you still went back to showing us compared to the whole state, we're outperforming many in the state. Again, we're in the top 5. So I just want to keep that in perspective, because that, to me, when I first read it, I think that's lost when you're reading there. It's only looking at us by ourselves, and then when it compares us to others, you're only looking at the differences between male and females, not looking at the overall scores. If they extrapolated that to the overall achievement, we would still be higher than others. Again, not trying to take away from the fact that there is a global gender gap issue. Just wanted to bring a little context, because I know at first read, it's a little hard to understand. It was for all of us when we first saw it.
So as a result of that, we are looking at what it is we can do to help close that gender gap. And so we have added some strategies and some things, put some things in place that will hopefully close that gender gap. And so I just wanted to share a few things today. As you know, that all of our kids here in Queen Anne's County receive Tier 1 instruction. And because of your support and your pushing of this concern in regards to the gender gap, just like to talk about the fact that we've added a new reading program in pre-K this year, which is called Frog Street. It's a thematic approach, okay? Specifically in grades K to 5, we've also implemented Interreading, which has 8 actual components or elements of reading. And some of those components include phonemic awareness. It includes phonics, comprehension, writing, building knowledge, language, and vocabulary. Also, we have the iReady diagnostic assessments that we actually have in place as well. The iReady diagnostic assessments, they actually assess students and they target the skills in which there are gaps. And then from there, we go into Tier 1, Tier 2 instruction, where we have small group instruction and sometimes individualized instruction. In math, we have what is called those pathways in iReady, which are also a part of Tier 2 instruction as well. We also have Foundations, which is a Tier 2 instruction piece that we actually use as well, that helps support those learning gaps of small children. And so those are the pieces that we have in place with that. You know that Foundations is intensive phonemic awareness as well as word study. Just want to make sure I don't miss anything. We also have mentoring, which is another recommendation that was given to us by Realm Mid-Atlantic. The local management board has provided us with a grant in which we have a staff member on board. Her title happens to be Achievement Mentor, to mentor students. Also, we have partnered with the Mariners Dream Alliance organization, in which referrals are made to our counselors within our building to support students as far as mentoring is concerned. Also, we have high impact tutoring. We're fortunate enough to be blessed with MSDE providing funding through the Blueprint and the federal government funds through the American Rescue Plan. So we have that in place. We have one-on-one tutoring as well as small group tutoring. We have increased, of course, Dr. Knoll and his team are always trying to reach for the most qualified candidates to be before our students. That's taking place, and he's continuing to work with the team, also work with the administrators within the building to make sure we're securing the best. And so those are the pieces that we have. So that's what we have at this point.
Anybody got any questions?
Well, the one question I had was on page 6, and you addressed it very eloquently as far as it doesn't help us. I mean, it's good that we're a very high-performing top 5 school in the state, but when you get certain numbers, it screws them a little bit because, you know, you're dealing with a different apple, not as a whole, and that concerned me when I read that, but then when you explain it to me, it makes sense.
So on page 4, for example, there's a chart, Queen Anne's County MCAP, ELA rates.
Yes, sir.
English language arts, right, by gender, 2022. And I understand 2022 results were sort of, I hope, an anomaly because of COVID, right? But if you look at 7th grade, 8th grade, 10th grade, I'm looking at a 28% spread between female and male. I'm not sure if I'm reading that correct. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so for example, 8th grade, 72% of our female 8th graders were performing at proficiency, right? 72%, and 42% of our boys. So what you're saying is because we're not a big school system, that this gap is actually, what, mitigated somehow, or it's not accurate?
No, I was not saying that. What I wanted to make sure was clear from this is that we are only looking at Queen Anne's data, and if you compare us to other districts, you will see that we're still outperforming the state in general.
Yeah, but outperforming is not really the concern. The concern is how are our boys in Queen Anne's County doing compared to the girls? So, you know, obviously you've taken some steps. I suppose before this, we actually requested that you look into this. The blueprint's got some solutions, I guess, up their sleeve with tutoring and that sort of thing, funding. But still the gap is there. I'm not sure, you know, whether you compare it to other states or globally or whatever. And even though we are a top performing school in the state, and we've recognized that nationwide, depending on what area you're looking at, we're still in the middle on the curve, somewhere around 25. You probably know that. In a nation that, you know, worldwide, we're struggling to keep in the top third. So my concern really is what can we do at this level? And I know that, you know, resources are limited and funding and all that. I do know that there's training available, teacher training, how to actually teach boys and that kind of thing. We've done it with the race gap. Now we've got a huge gender gap, obviously. And so obviously I'm not a professional either. None of us on the board are, you guys are. But I would like to call attention to this, and if there's some way we can add some other programs. For example, bringing in kids early, you know, pre-K, 3 years old now, we're bringing them in, 4 years old. I was always taught, and I've talked to professionals, that if you try to teach boys to read at that age, because boys and girls are different, and they learn differently, and their maturity levels sort of do this as they get older. You know, boys are more mature at some point, girls are more mature. If you try to teach them how to read and write at that young age, they're going to get frustrated. So right away, they're having a very bad experience with school. Now, again, you guys are the professionals. I do know that we've got someone fortunately, on our committee, the local, what do we call it? The
CAC.
Citizens Advisory Committee, thank you, who I've spoken with, who is actually a published author and that kind of thing in this area. That's his expertise. So I'm glad we've got him on the council. I don't know if he's, you know, contributed or not in that regard, but so I think it is an issue that I think we should take a better look at. Obviously, I'm not going to come up with solutions here, but I would like to, as a board, come to a consensus that we would like our school systems to see what we can do to raise our boys' achievement. Now, what we don't want to do, and what we always want to avoid is take away the achievement that our girls have made over the last 5-6 decades, because we know that their achievements historically prior to 1990, 1980 were low. So we don't want to take away. We don't want to do that with any of the gaps that we entertain or try to remedy. So how do we bring the boys' achievement up without bringing our girls down? But there is a problem, you know, and
Well, and it is, I mean, in Queen Anne's County, it's in the English area because it's sort of flipped in math.
math is right. Math is a little different.
So it's not everywhere.
That, you're right. That's true. And I'm not sure about science. And maybe boys are a little lower in science. I'm not sure.
I know we're primary female-oriented teachers, or mostly female. Does that thing play some of the factor that, I mean, I go into some of these schools and I see very few male teachers, especially in the lower levels.
That was one of the recommendations
That was one of the recommendations. Which we're continuing to work on actually retaining and obtaining highly qualified personnel to stand before our students. So that's one of the things that we try to do.
And that's a very fine line to maneuver, because you've got EEOC and everything else, laws that you've got to consider. So, you know, obviously trying to attract more male teachers probably into the profession in general, which is not exactly our, you know, purview, whatever, as here, but.
I was really interested in reading about the single gender classes that you guys had part as mitigating this gap, as well as the, oh shoot, you had it even after that, you had the start boys education later. Those, I mean, I found it great, that seems to totally address it, to have the classes. I mean, they said they've done it legally without legal challenges in other places. And I know you guys said that you were going to be exploring the potential benefits more. And I'm just wondering, what are we gonna do exactly to explore that potential bonus or?
I don't believe that, this was not our memo. That was one of the suggestions from Region 4. I don't think that either of us were
And they both
considering.
have legal exposure to them, and I think could be very challenging, certainly if we did just exclude and just have all boys in one classroom, it would have to be voluntary.
Well, there was a whole
And,
bunch of,
you know, I mean, and then I feel like we really would be exposing ourselves to, well, if we're gonna have just boys, then why don't we just have high achieving girls, or why don't we just have, you
It's
know,
the
so I think that
segregation
could
thing
be
is.
sticky a little bit.
No, I don't support that at all. But I'll give you an example. When it comes to, well, prior to joining the board, I reviewed 6 secondary novels that the school board had purchased for ELA in the various grades, and 5 out of 6 had female protagonists in the story. And there were other books that we purchased too. Just as an example, that you could tailor classes, and I don't know what the resources are and everything else, something you may want to look into. Tailor ELA classes that are geared more toward boys subjects. And if girls want to join in those classes, great. If more boys want to join in it, fine. So you're not segregating, but the subject matter, I suppose the subject matter or the protagonist, using the example that I gave, would be more oriented toward male subjects. And of course, we'll have, or interests, I should say. And of course, we've got to balance with the females and, that sort of thing, the boys and the girls. So anyway, just thoughts that, again, I'd like to see a little more thorough, maybe consult and get some ideas from the CAC and from the professionals that we do have on that board on things that we can do. Obviously, we've got this report. Some of these are great in theory, getting more male teachers as mentors, role models for the boys. But as far as segregation and that kind of thing goes.
Well, that is one of the programs that our expert on the CAC actually recommended when you and I met with him, was classes that would cater to just the boys.
Right, and that's been.
Doing it still legally, but one thing is, well, it's a problem, but it's not necessarily an overwhelming problem. I did notice that when I was at Graysonville Elementary, they've got those, what is it, Dudes in Schools?
Dudes in school.
Yes, that might be,
There's a
good
couple of elementary
resource.
schools that
Yeah,
does that.
but that's where I went and
Fathers.
talked to them, that they might be willing to, do some reading or have an after-school class or something with strong male protagonists.
Sure.
So
And,
my office is preparing as state data comes out for last year, preparing to make a presentation to the board on last year's MCAP results. So we could actually look at how this gap has changed from this data to the next
Right.
year too, and see, I mean, the English graph that you pointed out, we have 2 years that are overwhelming, and it'd be interesting to see how that changes as those kids get older and the younger kids move forward too.
and, they referenced, in this report, they referenced the Maryland, study. They call it the Black Boys Study, about raising achievement of African-American male students. This would obviously, or any initiative that we do in the county would obviously include them. And hopefully, if we can raise male achievement, then all races are going to be, brought up. And actually Maryland, or that study, I think Dr. Kane was on that panel, recommended bifurcating or segregating students, male, female, all male classes and that kind of thing. But so all I can do as a board member is to try to get just a consensus, and we don't have to do it now or whatever, but something that we need to look into, if we could put an emphasis on this. And that's one of the beauties of having a decentralized school system. All our county systems have a lot of leeway with curriculum and everything like that. And I know that's trying to be amended, so we're all in the same curriculum. But, we can try something here, and if it works, if we see progress after so many years, and maybe we won't see any progress for 8 years, the way the school system's tiered, then other school systems can look at us and say, hey, what did you guys do? You closed your gender gap, but you didn't bring down your female achievement when you did it. On the same token, can we look at other schools in Maryland? Have any other Maryland schools closed their district or their achievement gap, gender gap, or other states? And Ms. Bennett was mentioning Connecticut. Well, she was mentioning segregating classes, and Connecticut has done this. I don't know if they've had legal issues or not, but apparently they've had some systems in Connecticut have done this and have shown results. So again, I'm not an expert, but I can read and I can research, and I think this is something that is worthy of pursuing and looking into, even if we do some pilot testing, and see how it's accepted by the students and parents. So that's my 45 cents.
We appreciate that. We thank you for
I
that.
appreciate
Thank you.
what you've
Thank
given
you
us
for
too.
that.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Anybody else, any more comments or questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, what's next on the list here? I think we go into action items now, right? Okay, Mr. Stokes, Queen Anne's County High School overnight field trip.
They were so patient.
FFA.
Yeah.
Woo.
There to go.
I love their jackets.
All right.
Very nice.
Good evening. My name is Alyssa Crosley, and I'm the president of the Queen Anne's County FFA chapter. We are here tonight to ask for your guys' permission to go to the FFA National Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana, from October 31st to November 4th. We have 12 members planning on going, and we are planning on staying in a hotel in downtown Indianapolis, which is within walking distance to the convention center. We have all of our members that are planning on going are all excited to go and have this opportunity to meet with leaders and have different opportunities in the agriculture industry.
Hello, my name is Madison Branham, and I'm the secretary of our FFA chapter. And throughout the convention, there are multiple different colleges and businesses that have informational booths set up that will allow students to look into new futures in the agriculture industry and look how to pursue them.
Hi, my name is Michael Carroll. I'm the second vice president of the FFA chapter. Along with FFA offering colleges and other trade schools there. We also do a day of service, which we go out into the Indianapolis community and do some type of service to the community, maybe picking up trash on the side of a road, or maybe clearing out a Parks Pond. Along with that, the FFA National Convention also offers leadership classes during it, which teaches leadership skills while also working together as a group with people with different backgrounds.
Excellent. Well, it's nice to see you all again.
Yes.
And any questions or concerns?
No concerns at all. One question, you said 12, there's 20 going, 12 female and 8 male, is that what I understand?
No, there's 12 students together, and then there's 8 adults going on the trip.
Oh, 8 adults, okay.
They still do livestock judging.
Yeah.
Comments?
Nope.
Okay.
Mr. President, I recommend that we allow up to 15 9th through 12th grade Queen Anne's County FFA students to participate in the National FFA Convention to be held in Indianapolis, Indiana from 10/31 to 11/4. The cost is approximately $20,000. Budget source will be Queen Anne's County High School FFA account.
All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It says it up there.
All right, Human Resources Substitute Bus Driver Report. Can I get a motion for that? We reviewed
Move
that.
to approve the HR report as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Now, I think at this point, yeah, come on up. Yep, we were going to schedule this for a vote. We amended the agenda earlier.
Good evening, President Chiffinelli, Dr. Salins, board members, and members of the executive team. For the record, my name is Jolene Smith. I'm the Supervisor of Special Education. I bring before you this evening a request for tuition to be paid to the St. Elizabeth School in the amount of $135,866.99.
Okay, board members, have you had a time to review
Yes.
this? Any questions?
No. Mr. President, I move that we approve a non-public tuition for student attendance at St. Elizabeth School in the amount of $135,866.99. Budget source is unrestricted operating budget.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm going to stay here.
Go ahead.
So I also bring before you this evening a request for a contract approval to supplemental health care. This is for a speech therapist. This is a full-time speech pathologist to be providing services 5 days a week at Centerville Elementary School in the amount of $141,750.
The question I have is, we have 2 of them on our agenda.
We do.
One's 5 days, one 3 days. But when I break it down, there's a discrepancy, and I guess each contract's different?
Correct. So each contracted provider, depending on the company that's providing the service that actually is the recruiting company and they find the therapist, there are different rates, and each company also has different overhead that's associated with their providers as well. And that is often why you will see that discrepancy.
Well, we actually, do we have 3? One is a just video?
Correct.
So we have 3 speech. And so we have 4.89 speech pathologists now on staff, right?
Correct.
And so with this, with the one will make it 5.8. How many are we thinking that we need that we can't?
This will make us fully staffed, and it actually correlates to our staffing plan that I presented back in June. And if you reference the staffing plan, you'll note on there that I really delineated which positions were FTEs versus which ones were contracted. And I should have said this is actually, it is a budgeted item. So we anticipated this need going into this school year. So it is written into the budget, and it's within the scope of the budget line item.
Other questions?
Mr. President, I move to approve a contract for supplemental health care for speech therapy services.
Second.
All right, motion.
Okay, well, in the amount of sorry, I was a little slow.
That's okay.
In the amount of $141,750 and budget sources unrestricted operating budget.
Second.
All right, motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, you got one more?
So I also bring before you this evening a contract approval for eBear SLP LLC, which is again, speech therapy service. This is for 3 days of speech therapy service delivered at one school in the amount of $76,000, which is also provided through the unrestricted budget line item.
I just had a couple questions. So one is, it's talking about that 75% of their billed hours will be for direct services, but they could have up to 25% of their billing is not direct services.
Correct. So that is part of case management. So in addition to those direct services, there are consult services that are between the teacher as well as families, et cetera. Those are considered indirect services. And then in addition to that, there are assessments, there are reports, there's IEP meetings, et cetera, and none of those constitute part of direct services.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions?
Not for me.
Okay. Mr. President, I move to approve a contract for eBear SLP LLC for speech therapy services in the amount of $76,000, budget source unrestricted operating budget.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
And the last one I have for you this evening is a contract approval through Sunbelt, also for speech therapy services. This is for a virtual service delivery model, 3 days to support our infant and toddler population. So because infant and toddler services are often delivered in a natural environment, and it's often done through a co-treatment model, it affords us the opportunity to provide these services virtually. I will also add to that description the fact that it is extremely hard to find speech pathologists and really related service providers in general, especially those that are willing to come into the buildings today. So the amount requested is $65,000, and this is fully funded through restricted funds. It is a split-funded, grant-funded position.
Say it again twice. Just kidding.
So when they're
I say it so
meeting
many
with
times.
the toddlers, they're just in front of the screen talking or interacting for an hour, hour and a half? Or?
No, definitely not. So actually, our infants and toddlers is more of a coaching model. So again, it's a co-treatment model where there's a provider that's in the home as well as the speech language pathologist that would be joining them virtually. And then like I said, it's a coaching model. So it's a matter of you're coaching the family on skills and strategies that they can do when you're not there, because the frequency of the service is often different than when they're in the school building.
Okay, thank you. Mr. President, I move to approve a contract for Sunbelt for speech therapy services in the amount of $65,000, budget source restricted operating budget.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you,
a nice
Ms. Smith.
evening.
Okay. That brings us to social media class action lawsuit. All right. So, the board met with counsel and actually prospective outside counsel, and we're going to be not joining a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit, I should say. This is something a little more atypical. We're joining a mass action lawsuit, at least that's the intent. We need to vote on it. We're going to vote on it tonight. And the action is against, it's actually going to be a federal court case against many of the social media providers, the big ones, which include Meta. What are some of the other ones in there? Meta?
I think it was
TikTok, I think.
TikTok, I remember that one.
Yeah.
Meta, Google, Snap, and ByteDance.
And Instagram,
Thank
too.
you. All right.
Well, it's got
I wrote
Instagram.
all that down. I don't know where it went. That's why we're getting a lawyer. But, so in any case, it's because of the, ultimately the mental health issues that have, that teenagers, young people have incurred and have suffered from, and how that, because it's been transferred over to the schools. The schools have a higher demand for mental health and providers and professionals, and so that's sort of the basis for our standing to sue these providers. And it's based apparently on algorithms that these providers have developed that actually target young people. And I think that's starting to come out more and more in the open media, that how damaging it really is.
How addictive.
And how addictive it is, right, exactly. And, you know, it's a modern day marketing tool, and it's very aggressive, and it's having mental effects on kids, and that's being transferred over to, in monetary terms, to the schools, obviously in other ways as well, distracting from learning and everything else. I mean, I don't even know the extent of it, but I'm aware that it is immensely damaging. So the board did meet with council at the last work session, I think it was, closed session, and tonight we're going to have a discussion. That's my opening piece. If any of the other board members or anyone has, the superintendent has anything to say.
I just
certainly.
want to add in, just because trying to be fiscally responsible, is that this is not going to cost anything. And different than a class action, it's not as if the attorneys are taking 40-50% of the monies. I know Dr. Salins was very good about explaining to us, it was like the tobacco industry, when they had these suits come through, that we were able to get this chunk of monies that we use for education, that we use for programming, we're still getting money for programming from that. And so this is going to be the same thing, and we're paying nothing. Even our attorney will be working with the outside attorneys, and but that all goes to the contingency for a lot less percentage than what class action would do. So there really is no downside, and I think we all believe that this is really happening to our children. We believe it 199%. So the board, we've talked about, I think it's a good thing, and I think most of us do.
Yeah, I think another issue he brought up was, lead paint's banned in 78, I'm sorry.
Correct.
And that should have been done the same way this is being done. Yep. It's putting a burden on us as a school system to get these children up that have been hurt. And, it's a liability that they've caused for themselves, and I think it's a good idea that we support this and join it.
Anybody else?
Mr. President, I move to retain the Franz Law Group in California to represent on a contingency fee basis as plaintiffs in litigation against various social media companies to recover damages incurred as a result of the mental health epidemic among QACPS students. The fiscal amount is none, it's a contingency fee based.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, next thing, 8.07, Time to Care Act. Dr. Michael Knoll.
Good evening, Mr. President, Dr. Salins, members of the board and executive team. For the record, Michael Knoll, Director of Human Resources. I come before you tonight for approval for joining an alliance with MABE and MACO for the Time to Care Act. Beginning on January 1st of 26, all organizations employing at least one person in Maryland must provide workers up to 12 weeks of job-protected paid leave to care for themselves or certain family members who meet specific eligibility requirements. An employer may satisfy the TCA or the Time to Care Act requirements through an equivalent private insurance plan or an EPIP consisting of employer-provided benefits, insurance, or a combination of both if the plan is offered to all eligible employees and at least meets the rights, protections, and benefits provided to a covered employee. We ask tonight that Queen Anne's County Public Schools agrees that working with MABE and MACO is the most cost-efficient way to satisfy and meet the Time to Care Act.
I had a question. So it says for the Time to Care Act, employer and employee is split 50-50. On here, the $10,000 is the employer's contribution. What would the employee's contributions be?
According to this collaborative, if we go with the EPIP, an employer that provides covered employees with an EPIP, which this would do, those covered employees and the employer are exempt from the required contributions. That is one of the benefits of going with MABE and MAKO.
So they wouldn't have to pay?
Correct.
Okay.
And all we would be paying is $10,000 a year.
Annually. And then MABE would be our
And so when.
facilitator
so if
for
the-
this.
So basically, this is just the FEMLA, what it used to be FEMLA, but now it's extended, the 12 weeks of, are they still
No,
getting?
this is separate from, FMLA is not going anywhere. This is a new law for Maryland.
So if we do the 10,000 a year, and let's say, I take off for caring for, one of my family members, I'm still getting all of my benefits from Queen Anne's County Public Schools, correct?
Correct.
And I'm not paying anything. I guess I'm not sure, what is this private insurance plan? What's it doing? Because I'm still getting my benefits from Queen Anne's County
It's
Public
kind of,
Schools,
I
am
mean,
not?
I don't want to oversimplify it, but it's as if we were self-insured. We'd have to take care of all that ourselves, but being in this collaborative brings all of our costs down because we have one person we have a better buying or vying, or I don't know how to quite say it, but we have more weight in the game
Right.
because everybody's, on it
They're going to
together.
provide the most cost-effective way
Cost-effective way,
because
right.
strength in numbers is going to keep the costs
Exactly.
down
And that's
for
what we
both the
currently
employers
do.
and the
Well, I
employees.
understand that, except I'm thinking, I'm still getting, they're not going to, this cooperative consortium is not going to help pay my salary, right? This is still all coming out of our budget. Everything
Correct.
all of my benefits are still coming.
Correct.
So how am I saving money as Queen Anne's County Public Schools by doing this? Like, what am I going to get as the employee from this consortium that I'm not getting just kind of in general from?
The employees are going to get the paid leave, so what we're paying annually in all the other counties that join this, which many of them are, that money that we're paying in is what is going to pay for those 12 weeks of leave that the employees are taking. I believe that is how the insurance program is going to work.
In other words, for $10,000, one payment a year, we're going to be relieved of this obligation of paying this money if they qualify for it.
That is what the consortium is hoping to do.
And there's 24 school
Now,
districts, right?
and something else that has to just be said, this is hot off the press. I mean, this is something that was passed in '22, does not take effect until '26, but MABE is on behalf of Queen Anne's County and behalf of all the other counties that join them are going to apply with the Department of Labor so that we are in compliance with the Time to Care Act.
So we had a speaker earlier that talked about this and had an objection to us doing it now as opposed to later. Help me understand why. Why would we not do this now? Why would we want to wait to do it later as requested earlier?
Because in my opinion, you cannot wait to do something this monumental last minute right before. There is a lot of planning and prep that goes into this. Also, by joining the consortium now, when we do, we are not going to have to pay, and employees are not going to have to start paying into it in '24. That is one of the benefits of going into this.
And who
In
decides?
what did you say,
But I thought you-
2040?
I thought the
24,
employees don't pay.
24,
Employees or employers?
employers and employees.
Okay, but I thought it's not costing the employees anything.
This should not cost the employees by joining that. This MABE and MAKO will be the insurance provider for this leave. Employers have three options. They can default to the state plan where you pay into it. The employees and the employers pay into it. They can self-administer the program, which is not cost-effective at all, because then we become our own insurer and it's off the rails. Or you contract with an insurance group. That is what MABE and MACO are going to do for us. They are going to be our insurance provider for this. We will be paying into that so that it is covered and our employees are covered. A prorated portion of their salary depending on the earnings that they make.
And as the 24 entities join, those costs go down.
That's what I was gonna say.
Correct.
It's power in numbers. That's the
Right.
bottom
Yes.
line. We could go out on our own and make it very difficult on ourselves. Plus, we're not the experts in this. They have a team of people that are working on this that made the MACO together. So, they're bringing in the insurance experts and looking at stats and things like that. We don't have that capacity to do that here in the district. We just don't. Michael's pretty much a one-person shop there. But, so we can't go out on our own and just do it. I don't think we have the capacity to do that. And, it is, for me, in numbers, is the smartest thing to do. We do this with a lot of other things. MABE serves, we do the ESMEC Trust, Energy Trust, we do ESMEC Insurance Pool. And so, in numbers helps us with strength and weight of being able to handle situations. It's just like even with Everside, the same thing with that, and being able, once we add additional partners to Everside, our costs are gonna go down. So it's the sheer numbers that help us too. But then you add in the expertise that we don't have. It's kind of like a no-brainer. And why do it now? Because there is actually a deadline of October 1.
Okay.
So any district that wants to participate needs to have their board approved by October 1. Now, they did say that because, this is new, that if somebody said, well, my board doesn't meet until October 5th or something, they said absolutely. But we need to make the commitment now or one of the other two options, which I just don't think are viable options for us.
When somebody applies for this, I'm assuming then they go to this group to see if they qualify. It's gonna take the load off us as far as who qualifies and who doesn't.
As our employees, we would collect all of the information and
Right.
we would submit it to MABE and MACO.
And if they want to appeal it or something, they'd appeal it to them, not this board.
It would we would facilitate the employees just like we do now with FMLA.
Okay.
So if we approve this tonight, then $10,000 goes to MABE, right?
Correct.
For this coming year, I guess, or to start up. And we start debiting employee contributions at that point?
We would not.
There aren't any. That's what-
There aren't any, okay.
No, I guess, and I'm sorry, I really am not trying to not get it, but I'm not understanding if they're already getting the 12 weeks, if we're paying them and they're getting all of their benefits, I'm not sure why we need what's the insurance doing? I guess I don't understand what this consortium is going to do for us that
This is, I think you're conflicting this with FMLA, which is our already
Well,
benefited
no, I've
package.
let go of the FMLA. It was
Okay.
just saying that they get to take 12 weeks and we're going to still be paying them and they're still getting their benefits, correct, from us?
They would keep their benefits, that won't go away.
Right.
What they get is a prorated portion of their pay. They don't get full pay.
Okay, all right.
It's a
thank you.
prorated portion of their pay.
So it'd be like 60% of their average
And they're
average weekly
handling
wage
all
or
the-
whatever.
Depending on the income of the employee.
Right, exactly.
And they're handling all the administrative stuff, so
Yes.
we're not,
Yes.
okay, all right.
Yes. Okay, no, it's
So,
very.
no one is gonna get 100% of their pay by
Yeah,
doing
right.
this. They're
It's like
gonna get
workers'
a
comp.
prorated based on.
But I think what Helen is saying is, so we're paying this employee who's out for 12 weeks, 60% or whatever the percentage is of her average weekly wage, no matter what her salary is. And then because we're in this consortium with MABE, is MABE paying, is the insurance carrier that they contract with as a group of 24, are they helping defer some of those
They will
costs?
defer the cost, and the more that are in it, the lower or the higher that deferment will be.
Okay. I
So
see.
the impact on the employer, which is Queen Anne's County, will be reduced.
So because of the Maryland law, we're either 100% we're paying this employee or employees a percentage of their average weekly wage, or we're going to join this consortium and they're going to help pay a percentage of whatever we have to pay that employee. Okay.
And it is
So it's
very
gonna bring the cost
complicated,
in.
and as Dr. Knowles said, this is all new. I mean, navigating the Time to Care Act is all new for everyone, and I have to say that MABE and MACO taking the lead has
given us kind of almost a sigh of relief because we knew we didn't have the capacity to do that. So we're very thankful for their leadership and again, just combing through the law and trying to figure it out together, just like the blueprint law has been very challenging to figure out. The Time to Care Act has been very challenging in too. I will not say I'm an expert in it, and I'm sure Michael would probably say the same thing at this point. I don't think there's anybody who's really an expert in it. So your questions are very valuable, and we appreciate them. And,
Oh, they're great, and I'm sure they're not just happening in boardrooms. It's any employer that has one or more employees is having to navigate what this is going to look like for them. So your small businesses, your large businesses, this is going to be a very impactful piece of legislation.
And we'll continue to bring things back to the board. And actually, we could have Mr. Nagel come or one of the folks from MABE or MACO come and give a presentation. I'm sure they'd be happy if the board would like additional information.
So this is outside the school system.
Facilitate that.
And
This
we're
is
able-
statewide.
Oh, this is everywhere.
Industry-wide.
Everywhere. Everywhere in the state of Maryland.
We did attempt to try to get schools excluded from it for obvious reasons, because it hurts kids. It does. Ultimately, this will hurt kids because they won't have a teacher that's qualified face-to-face with them. So ultimately, we went on the basis that this is hurting kids and we should be excluded. But that didn't happen, obviously. So we're moving forward. We did get some timelines changed.
Yes.
To give us more time to digest it, to get MABE and MACO more time to figure out how we can kind of go about supporting each other, but did not get excluded.
Are we able to leave the consortium if we were to choose in the future? I mean, it's
Yes.
because it just says 10,000 annually for.
Yeah, and that 10,000 is a ballpark, I'll be honest with you. That's a starting point. Maybe a little less as we get, depending on how many people really join. Might be $1,000 more, just depend, so it is just kind of a ballpark, I think a good estimate, but could change slightly.
And it is not a life commitment. It's a memorandum of agreement.
Yeah.
And we can separate if need to.
And one other question, I'm sorry, I'm showing that on the fiscal impact amount, it says $10,000 annually and TCA insurance. Are those two separate things? So the
No, that's what Dr. Salen said. The actual insurance fee has not been worked out yet
They don't know
because
how many people are joining.
they don't have the totality of the counties that have.
And certainly by the end of October, we will know,
Yes.
because, as I said, the target date was October 1st, unless someone was like, oh, my board meeting's the first, I can't get it approved until the 12th, they're not gonna exclude them from the opportunity. So certainly by the end of October, I think they'll have a better understanding of how good that ballpark is. But knowing the expertise, that MABE's always come through, they do their homework, they're very supportive, to you all, as you well know, that I think that they wouldn't have put a number out there that they didn't feel confident was very close to the amount.
Okay.
All right, my bet's on 24 school systems.
Well, Montgomery County always kind of,
Dr. Noel?
Yeah,
So
we
do
got
the
the only ones.
employees have to pay anything in connection with this MOU?
As long as we are a EPIP, that is to ease the burden on the employees and the employers.
So by
But the
agreeing-
Department of Labor is going to be the one that has to approve this, and then they'll be the final say.
So I'm just kind of bouncing off what Mrs. Bent said. If they don't have to pay anything, why would there be an objection to us joining?
I can't
She
speak.
didn't say there was an objection to us joining. She had an issue with the timeline and whether we should do it now or later.
Well,
That was
actually,
what
her
she
first
said.
part was that
That
she
she doesn't
didn't
feel-
want it, she didn't want it.
I think that and I don't know this because I just listened to her and I didn't know that she was going to speak, but if I had to guess, that the union's stand is that they feel that we have to go to the table and negotiate with them and that they're the ones who make the decision, not the board members sitting up here. And I would disagree with that because there are different things that you do have to negotiate and insurance is not one of those things that we negotiate. Would you agree with that,
I'll make
Dr. Knoll?
I would agree.
So I believe that's their position. But again, I didn't know they were coming, I didn't know they were speaking on that issue, but.
Make a motion to agree with the superintendent.
That's correct, we do negotiate insurance, like you negotiate 90.
Correct, but not the insurance carrier. They don't negotiate that we are with.
Care First.
Care First.
It's not in the contract here, which Which insurance carrier? Okay.
So,
Any other questions?
Okay, any other questions, comments? I hear a
Mr.
motion?
President, I move that QACPS would join the MABE and MACO Time to Care Act Collaborative. The fiscal amount is $10,000 annually and TCA insurance.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Dr. Knoll.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Knoll.
Okay. Dr. Sprankle, approval of policy 620, materials of instruction.
good evening again. President Schiffinelli, Dr. Salins, board members, executive team members. For the record, I am Dr. Marcia Sprinkle. I bring before you tonight Policy 620, Materials of Instruction. You may recall back in July, we had our first reading, and in August last month, we had our second reading. So tonight, we are bringing this before you for approval. To date, we don't have any additional comments, any additional phone calls, so.
Okay, so obviously the superintendent is charged with creating policies, keeping them up to date. The school board is charged with that as well, to approve policies that reflect the state legislature's statutes, the COMAR, that's their regulations, Code of Maryland regulations, that are the rules that implement Maryland's statutes approved by the state house, or state house, right? And this is materials of instruction, and it's got that word that, if you haven't figured it out by now, I really have an issue with, and that's equity. But equity is in the COMAR, and it is part of the blueprint, actually. All schools are mandated to have equitable outcomes by a certain date, or show equitable outcomes in education, to implement educational equity. I've read about educational equity in general, and it's a very vague word. I don't particularly like it in this scenario, and I've talked to teachers, I've talked to principals in our own school system, and there seems to be some, genuine confusion what it really is. Some are totally for it, some are not. Some don't have an opinion, of course. But I would just point out that this is, I've reviewed this, and it does conform with what our obligations in the COMAR. So I really don't take issue with that. That's not our call. I think it's curious or ironic that we're scratching out, on our update of this, we're scratching out multicultural education, which was the last great thing in social justice movement, was multiculturalism and multicultural education. It started in the late 80s and the 90s. I guess that didn't go anywhere, so now we're at educational equity. So that's my 2 cents. If anybody's got any comments, I just hope that 20 years from now, we're not scratching out educational equity, because that didn't work. It didn't raise the achievement gap, didn't close the gender gap, socioeconomic gaps, and all these other gaps. And now we're going to be doing something else in 20 years and still spinning wheels. So that's my concern. Anybody else? Comments, questions?
Well, my only comment, and it has nothing to do with just the verbiage, is that says after that demonstrates educational equity and assists students. It should have an S on the end of assist.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
The time I've spent being on board between the Thornton Commission, the Crowan Commission, and the Maryland Blueprint, I hate to tell you, Mark, things are they never stop changing.
Well,
and I don't understand.
It's not that I expected it to.
No, I understand. I mean, I don't understand. It's the best thing since thing. We got this going on, then all of a sudden 5 years later, let's do something else. We just need to get back to the basics and do things with common sense. As far as equity and what words we use, I don't know. I think Queen Anne's County does a good job, but I can tell you it's frustrating as hell sometimes.
And I do realize that there are problems out there that educational equity is trying to fix. I just don't think that, I guess like you feel, that's the way to go about it.
See, now we need to
But,
make a motion, yes, approve of
these are
President and Dick's, yes.
Bigger
Yeah.
issues.
I do.
All right. Any other comments or questions? None? Hearing none. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move to accept policy 620, materials of instruction as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Dr. Sparkle. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, and then, Mark Duffendock, we've got approval of lease purchase agreement. Lenovo Chromebooks, 8.09.
Good evening, Mr. President, Dr. Salins, board members, executive team. Mark Duffendock, Chief Financial Officer. In June, the board had approved the procurement of 2,600 Chromebooks for the high school students, subject to lease financing. Subsequent to that approval, there was a bid for the leasing vendor, and the recommended award is to TD Equipment Finance, which would be 4 annual payments of $354,692.38, with the first payment being on July 28th, 2024.
Mr. Duffendock, I know that this has nothing to do because you're just presenting. I guess after looking through this, I don't think, and I must have missed it, I was not aware that we were paying $130,000 in finance fees for this lease. I was thinking that that people we were buying the Chromebooks from were just leasing it to us and letting us pay over time.
Just to be fiscally responsible here or cheap, I am that. So we did vote on that. That was the, 1.287. And I did question the prices because if you look at the 2,600 units, we are paying, they're not wholesale prices, they're retail prices. And I mean, just for instance, if you go on and look, we could go onto the Lenovo website and buy those protective cases for $20,000 less than what that Dally wants to charge us. So I'm just questioning, we took bids for the lease agreement from 4 different companies. Why aren't we taking bids to see if we could save more money for the Chromebooks?
I can't speak.
So I will tell you from an IT standpoint, you're getting a Chromebook that's fully loaded so that when our students get those Chromebooks, they open them up, they log in, they go to work. What you buy off of a website is a blank screen or a blank system that you have to set up. It takes a minute to set up 2,600 laptops. You have to have the security system. You have to have all of the information that the students need to log in. Nobody's gonna do that for you for free.
Well, I bought that same computer for
But yours, you
400.
cannot bring yours to this school system, open it up, log in, get all of your homework, reach all of your teachers, do all the stuff that you need to do in this system for that laptop that you bought.
Okay, well,
Now,
then
the ones that
explain the
they got delivered to us.
$20,000 extra for cases. I mean, just right there alone. I mean, if we took.
It's a cost of doing business. Nobody is going to give you $2,600 to anybody. If you work in I work for an IT company, right? We buy thousands of laptops every year. When you get them, all you have to do is put in your information and log in. You can reach all your networks. You can reach all of your hardware. You can reach all of your share drives. You can reach all the applications that your company owns and can use. That's what this is.
Okay, so
These
what
are
is the harm in taking bids? We either get a higher bid, we get no bids, or we get lower than what we are piggybacking off this.
And sooner or later,
education
you get what
consortium.
you pay for. There's also called sparing. When they break, there's somebody there to fix them.
That you have that
an
with other
IT person.
companies, though. Or
You're not
the
gonna
taxpayers of-
get quality systems. We are giving expensive hardware to children.
Yes, $500
Children
per Chromebook.
that drop them on the bus, throw them in a closet, open them up, sit them down, beat on them. You want quality systems that we don't have to spend all of our time trying to fix and replace.
I'm talking about putting out a bid for exactly what we have written down in here. We have 4-year warranty, $36. We have 4-year accidental damage, an extra $80. Chrome OS management console, an extra $30. A protective case, $27. White glove service, $23, which is essentially shipping, and the computer itself is $299. That's $495 per Chromebook. So,
Correct.
So can we take this number, all these things that you want in this system, and put it out to bid? And either we're gonna get no bids, we're gonna get lower bids, or higher, and then we could just go with this. I don't understand what the harm in trying to get a better number and being
Timing.
fiscally responsible.
Some of it is.
Timing-wise,
Yes.
that approval was already made to the vendor. The Chromebooks are already in place. So this is just the financing aspect of
Okay,
that
well, then my
purchase.
next question would be, back on June 7th, when we approved this, it says right in there that we could have went with a 4-year contract and used HP Enterprises, and we could have went with 4 payments of $350,000 over 4 years, which was 1.4 million. So now, why didn't we go with that? And now we're choosing to go with the TD, and that's gonna cost us an extra $16,000.
My understanding
over
is
the 4 years.
they provided an estimate, but it was not an official proposal.
It said in there, if we went with that by August 31st, that was the price it would have been. So I'm just trying to be fiscally responsible here with the taxpayers' money, and, if I could go on the Lenovo website, I'm just talking about cases here, and save $20,000 on 2,600 cases, that's a lot of money just for cases. So what else are we missing out on?
Well, I wish that Josh was here because I think he could answer your questions better because he's the one who does the ordering and looking and comparing costs and looking at the educational discounts we get. And certainly I can connect him with you and make sure that your questions are answered. I think at this point, there was obviously a huge lapse in that connection with the financing company. And I'll be honest, that's a staffing issue that we had at the time. And so from the time that it was approved by the board, it was dropped. And so by the time that Dr. Doofendock, try to say your name right, came on board, we were like, where are the Chromebooks? Why are they not here? Oh, well, the leasing hadn't been completed for the financing part of it. So he's had to go back to the drawing board, and when you did the better pricing for.
Yeah, it was in process. The prior CFO had put out the bid prior to my arrival. So I can only speak to it from that point
Right.
forward.
It didn't get finalized before.
Right, it was not finalized.
Before they left Queen Anne's County. So there was a lapse in there, and unfortunately, he was trying to catch up. So all said and done, it ended up changing. So they've actually been approved by you already. This is just for the financing piece, and it was pushed a year, which is costing us more money. And that was also done by a previous decision of someone who's not here anymore.
Well, one of the major concerns I got, not that we don't need these things, but I'm worried about our budget this year and next year. And we're committing $354,000 for the next 4 years, starting in '24, which is not this current budget, but it's a following budget. And all of a sudden, we're gonna be sitting here in January and February when we finalize our budget, and we're gonna sit there and say, okay, what do we need? We got this to cover, this to cover, this to cover. We've committed half the hay in the barn, and we still haven't got the horse ready. Not that we can change this right now, but man, I tell you, I understand your $20,000, but I got higher numbers than that to worry about, I think.
Well, I'm
We
just
got
saying at
2,600
that
students.
as a case. So if we go up, can we make a motion to take bids? Go back and take bids
They-
for the?
They've
They've
already
already
been acquired.
been.
See, we've already
Just
acquired
finance.
them.
Yeah, they've already been ordered. They're already in use, to my
Right,
knowledge.
yeah, they've already been, this is just, yes, this is just to
Haven't-
pay for them.
How did we pay for, how do we get
Because we're
systems?
leasing them, so we have a commitment to say, it's just like when you lease anything. You're gonna get your car, but you haven't paid for your car yet, you're gonna end up making monthly payments or annual payments to
Never
pay for
pay
that
for it.
car.
Once
Right,
you pay for
and
it,
then
you
you
gotta
pay
use it.
extra, so you're borrowing the money to pay for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, going forward, can we see more things that are put out to bid? Because, we piggyback off the Education Enterprise Consortium, but how do we know they're getting their best bang for the buck? I
Right.
mean, we hope they are, but what if we put it out to bid and we save $200,000 or $300,000? We don't know unless we try.
Yeah,
There's
and
no
it's,
harm.
and to be honest with you, it is challenging in a smaller district to be able to put everything out to bid. And we do have to really count on some of those bigger districts, Montgomery County, PG County, Anne Arundel County, Baltimore City, Baltimore, city and county, because they do have departments that do all the hard work and the heavy lifting for going out and beating feet to be able to get those best prices, and then that affords us the opportunity to piggyback off of them, because they do have the wherewithal and the means to go out and do that. There are lots of things that we do take out to bid, but when we see something like that, and we know that it's been properly done through a different school district, we do take the opportunity to piggyback. It's like that for anything. Matter of fact, like our Everside contract that we did, we now have several districts that are piggybacking off. It was a hard, heavy lift that we did to get that to the place it is, and now all these other districts are gonna be able to reap the benefit of that. So that's how we look at it. Point well taken, though, and I appreciate that. But I do think that we can't put everything out to bid, but can we look at additional things? We sure can try. We also, too, when I think about some of the things that Mr. Pinder does in his department, sometimes there's just not anybody out there to, there's only one company within a 100-mile radius that does that work. And so we can't always find other, 3 people that are gonna come to the table to provide us with a viable, solution. Usually, and sometimes in his field, as I said, it's one. I mean, am I correct, Mr. Pinder?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
so, but again, point well taken, and we certainly will continue to look at opportunities where we can put things out. But right now, what's on the table is not necessarily these Chromebooks. They're with us. What's on the table right now is the leasing contract so that we can pay for them.
Well, that's another thing. Why are we buying things if we don't have the money for them?
So,
Because after 4 years with these children, you need to replace them.
yeah, and
Can't
we're actually trying to squeeze out more, like.
I know.
With the cases that we do buy, we're looking at the software that we do put on them to ensure, and having that high level where they touch the Chromebooks and our technology department does not have the capacity to touch every single Chromebook and
don't.
set it up, and,
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to set them up and maintain them. So if we had 15 more people in that department, I would say absolutely, we should
We need a bigger
have
district to
experts
have
that can
that
fix
many more.
them in district, and, but we don't have that capacity to do that, unfortunately.
And there's one other
Or
thing that
looming.
I'd like to add as well. We have to have reliable devices for testing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Good
have
point.
to.
Yeah.
Because you could actually get a violation.
Well, I
So
mean,
it
if
can
we put it out to
happen,
bid, who knows, maybe we could have bought 5,000 Chromebooks instead of 2,600. We don't know unless we try. So, I mean, if we can
If they
save
were
money
put out
one
to
where
bid,
we could
that's the
increase the
point.
quantity.
This is just, unfortunately, this is the cleanup of what was done previously. They were put out to bids.
When were they put out to bid?
It was off a consortium.
It was off the consortium, but
Piggybacking.
Somebody put it out to bid. It didn't just
Right.
occur.
We didn't. We just approved from the piggyback.
All right, so it's a valid concern, and I think our financial woes that Mr. Smith reminds us of, rightly so, are seated elsewhere. But in any case, these are here. We got to entertain this motion or this contract. So do we have a motion?
Mr. President, I move to approve the lease financing of 2,600 Lenovo Chromebooks for high school students in the fiscal impact dollar amount of $1,418,769.53. Budget source FY25 unrestricted operating budget.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And you know what? Thanks for stepping in to
And-
what you
and
did.
putting up with us.
Okay, do we have anyone sign up for citizen comment participation? All right. And in that case, future meetings, September 20th is going to be our normal work session, starts at 5 PM. And school safety meeting, it's a panel, I believe it's going to be televised, right? Is that going to be televised?
Here.
Yeah, it's going to follow right after the
Board
the
meeting,
meeting,
6:30.
right. And, oh, at 6:30, all right.
Okay.
Any other comments, concerns, issues? All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.